Hi friends, Miss Kristi here, and I am so excited to be together again cooking in the kitchen. Today we are learning how to make a muffin in a mug. With just 6 ingredients plus a minute and a half of cooking in our microwave, we end up with the perfect size muffin for ourselves. We're gonna have fun making this together today, and I'm so glad you're here. Now, the first step to cooking and working in the kitchen is to wash our hands. While I wash my hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds, let's go over the ingredients and supplies that you'll need to gather to cook along today. The ingredients you'll need are 1/4 cup of flour, 1½ tablespoons of brown sugar, 1/4 teaspoon baking powder, 1/2 tablespoon of butter, 2 tablespoons plus 1/4 teaspoon of milk, and 1 tablespoon of frozen blueberries. The supplies you'll need are a cutting board, liquid measuring cup, 1/4 cup dry measuring cup, 1 tablespoon, 1/2 tablespoon, 1/4 teaspoon, a butter knife, and a spoon. Okay, great. Your hands are clean and my hands are clean. We've gathered our ingredients and supplies, so let's get started making our muffin in a mug. This is such a quick muffin. It only takes a minute and a half of cooking in our microwave, and then we have a muffin for ourselves, so I'm really excited about this. Step 1 is going to be to grab your mug. So in the supply list, I said that you would need a liquid measuring cup. Now you could use a coffee cup. I use a liquid measuring cup because I know that it's microwave safe. There's a nice handle that doesn't get too hot when I put it in the microwave. So that's why I'm gonna make everything in here. Plus it's clear so I can see as I mix my ingredients around. But if you would rather use a coffee mug that you know can go in the microwave, you can also make this right in a coffee mug. Today we're just gonna make it in a liquid measuring cup. So take your liquid measuring cup and put it right in front of you because that's where all the ingredients are gonna get mixed into. And now you're gonna wanna grab your flour and your 1/4 cup dry measuring cup. So this is the 1/4 cup. It's the big one that we're using today. It says 1/4. And then you're gonna need to grab your flour. And we are gonna measure out 1/4 a cup of flour and put it right into our liquid measuring cup. We're gonna do our dry ingredients first, and then we'll add a few wet ingredients. So get a nice level scoop. When you bake, you do wanna have it try to be as level as possible. Sometimes you could even spoon the flour in here to make sure it's exact. But today I'm just gonna scoop it up, give it a shake. So we have a good 1/4 cup of flour, and then put it right into your liquid measuring cup. You can put your 1/4 cup aside, we're done with that, and you can put your flour to the side because we won't use any more of that. And now you're gonna grab your brown sugar. So grab your brown sugar and your tablespoon and your 1/2 tablespoon. So it's the 2 bigger ones. This is gonna say 1 TBSP, and this is gonna say 1/2 TBSP. So we need 1½ tablespoons of brown sugar. So take the tablespoon first and scoop out 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. I'm gonna use my fingers, they're clean because we washed them. But with brown sugar, you really do wanna pack it in to whatever you're measuring. So I'm just going to scoop this up, kind of pack it in just with my finger because they're clean, which is why we wash our hands before we start cooking. So that's a nice, good scoop of brown sugar. So I'm gonna do 1 tablespoon. Keep this to the side, we're gonna use that in a second. And then we need our 1/2 tablespoon. So again, it's 1/2 TBSP. And the same thing, we just need to scoop in 1/2 tablespoon and pack it in there and then drop it in. This is what's gonna make our muffins sweet, is that brown sugar. Everything else isn't very sweet, so this is what's gonna give it that sweet flavor. You can put your brown sugar to the side, we are done with that. Now we need 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. So you're gonna grab the smallest one that we're using today. It says 1/4 TSP, 1/4 teaspoon, and your baking powder. And just gonna add this to our cup as well. Just tap this off a little bit. You wanna get a good level scoop. So we don't want a big mound, we want it to be straight across the top. And you wanna make sure that when we dump this in here now, we mix it really well because you do not want chunks of baking powder in your muffin. It will not taste good. You can put your baking powder to the side. Keep your 1/4 teaspoon because we're gonna use that again, so just keep that next to you. Grab your spoon, and now we're just gonna stir this together. I wanna make sure that my brown sugar gets all mixed up throughout the flour, and especially that baking powder like I just mentioned. You don't want chunks of that. You could use a whisk too. At this point, if you don't want to use a spoon and you have a whisk, you could use a whisk. I'm just using a spoon to save a dish. I don't want to have to clean a whisk, and we don't really have to have one, so I'm just taking my spoon, mixing this together. But I can see now where the brown sugar has mixed in with the flour, so there's no big chunks. That's what we're looking for before we start adding some other ingredients. All right, halfway there, so that was 3 of our 6 ingredients. Now we need to add a little bit more of the wet ingredients. So now we're gonna do the butter. So take your butter and put that in front of you, and then you're gonna need your 1/2 tablespoon again. So that's the one we just used for the brown sugar. It's gonna say 1/2 TBSP, so 1/2 tablespoon of butter. And again, a lot of butter sticks will have a tablespoon measurement. So you'll see a line, and that's gonna show you on a stick of butter that it's a tablespoon. But we only need 1/2 tablespoon, which is why I really wanna measure it this week. So I'm gonna take this and my butter knife that we have in our supply list, and I'm just going to, we've done this before, scoop in some butter right into my 1/2 tablespoon measurement. All right. Just get a nice even mound, just like that. I'm gonna put the rest of my butter aside. I don't need any more of that. We only need 1/2 tablespoon. And now I'm just gonna pop this right into our liquid measuring cup where everything is gonna get cooked today. All right, you can set your butter knife aside. We are done with that. Take your spoon now, and you actually do want to mix this together. So the best that you can, you're gonna take your spoon and you're gonna mix it into this flour. Take the side of your spoon, kind of break it up into little chunks. When we cook this muffin, we want butter throughout our mixture. It's gonna make it fluffy, and it's gonna give it that great taste. So we don't want just one big mound of butter. It's gonna get loud for a second. So I'm just taking my spoon and really just mixing this butter, kind of crushing it up against the side, the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, and if your butter's really cold, this might be a little bit harder. Mine was at room temperature, so it's not too hard to break up, but you'll start to see like it looks like little pieces of sand. So your butter just makes these little tiny chunks. That's what we're looking for before we add our other ingredients. All right. Because we have the brown sugar in there too and the little chunks of butter, it really is starting to look a little bit like sand, so that's a good thing. That's what we want. Now we're going to add our milk. So grab your milk. I'm using almond milk like I usually do. You can use regular milk, you can use soy milk. Whatever you have in your kitchen is perfect. So just know if you don't drink regular milk and you want to use almond milk, that's what I'm using today. And we need our tablespoon. So it's this biggest one again. We used it for the brown sugar. 1 TBSP, the big one. And then we need the really small one. So 1/4 TSP. So we're using 2 tablespoons plus 1/4 teaspoon of milk into our muffin mixture. All right, so I'm gonna take my milk here, get the top off. 2 tablespoons, so we need to do this twice. So we do 1 right on top and 2. All right. Keep this to the side. We're gonna use it one more time. And now for the small one, this is the hardest one. So if you wanna pour over, like put it in the sink and pour it over there, or pour it into another little dish and then dump it in. Totally your call, but if you feel comfortable going slow, we just need this tiny little 1/4 teaspoon. You wouldn't think it would make a difference, but it really does. That way our mixture isn't too thick, and dump that right in. Now you can put this aside. We are done with that one. So you can put your 1/4 teaspoon aside and your milk. before we add our last ingredients, which is blueberries, we are going to now just stir this. So take your spoon and give this a good stir. This is when you're gonna start seeing it come together and look like a muffin mixture consistency that it would look like before you put in a muffin tin. So we don't wanna over stir it, but we're just giving it a little mix to get our milk together. You can still see the butter throughout it. But now it's thickened up a bit, which is what we want, because it should be, like I said, kind of like when you've made muffins in the past. It should look the same right before we pop it in the microwave. All right, so this looks great. All right, last ingredient is our blueberries. So we are making a blueberry muffin today. If you didn't like blueberries or you don't have frozen blueberries and you wanted to put something else in here, maybe you wanted to do a diced up strawberry, maybe some dried cranberries, those are the choices that you can make when you cook for yourself in the kitchen. So just know if you don't have frozen blueberries and you have fresh blueberries or strawberry, you can put a tablespoon of any other type of fruit in here that you'd like and make it your own. All right, so we need 1 tablespoon of frozen blueberries. So I'm gonna grab my tablespoon again. We just used it for the milk, so it was right next to me. And I'm just scooping out a tablespoon. I'm gonna do a big tablespoon because I like a lot of blueberries. Big tablespoon and right into the measuring cup. That's where everything's going today. And then you can set those aside because we are done with all of our ingredients. I'm gonna take my spoon one last time and giving this just a mix to get those blueberries pushed up underneath the batter, mixed throughout, and then I'm gonna just take a second to scrape down the side of my liquid measuring cup. So I don't want a ton of batter on the side because I want it all to cook together. This batter on the side will cook faster than what's in the middle, and then you'll end up with a little bit of burnt batter on the outside. So just the best you can, scrape down the sides to get it all towards the bottom. And I can see, because I have a clear cup, that everything's mixed together. It looks like muffin mixture. Now all we have to do is pop it in the microwave for 1.5 minutes. So you can put your spoon aside, we're done with that. We are gonna cook this in the microwave for 1 minute and 30 seconds. And as soon as it comes out, I'm gonna grab the handle because it's gonna be hot. We'll talk about that, but as soon as the timer goes off, we'll get it out and let it cool and we'll take a look at it. So I'm gonna pop this in the microwave. Okay, this is exciting. Our microwave just went off, so that muffin has cooked for 1.5 minutes in the microwave, and now I'm just gonna carefully take it out. Again, we're gonna grab it by the handle because it's gonna be hot, the bottom's gonna be hot. So I'm gonna grab it, put it on a protected surface on my counter, like a cutting board or a pot holder, and I'm gonna let it cool for 1 minute so that cup has a chance to cool down before we start eating our muffin. All right, friends, so we have let this cool for about a minute or two just to make sure that the cup cools down because it's very hot from coming out of the microwave and we don't want to burn ourselves. So I wanted to give the cup a chance to cool down, whether you're using your liquid measuring cup or a coffee cup. Just give it some time to cool. Now I'm going to just take it out and put it on a plate. So I have a plate here and I'm going to use a fork just to take it out. So you'll see that I'm just grabbing the handle and taking my fork around the side, and I'm gonna try to pop it out. Now you don't actually have to take it out and put it on a plate. You could eat it right out of the mug that you're using, totally your preference. This is just to get to show us what it looks like when it comes out. But if you wanna just grab a fork and eat it right out of the mug, that's kind of the point of muffin in a mug. But you can see it does make this perfect little sized muffin for ourselves. Get a little bit extra there, but perfect. Look at this. And now I have a blueberry muffin, and that took probably 5 minutes total. It only cooked for 1.5 minutes. And it smells good, and it tastes good, and it's quick. So the next time you have a craving for a muffin, remember you can make this muffin in a mug in just a few minutes. So I hope you try it, or I hope you try it again. And when you do, as I always say, let me know how it goes. I love getting to hear from you. You can leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. You can even send me a picture of how your muffin in a mug turned out. I would love to get to see your creation, and maybe we can share it next week. Now, speaking of next week, on next week's episode, which is episode 42, we are learning how to make chocolate almond butter bites. These bites have just 6 ingredients plus 1 that's optional. We'll make about 12 bites, and bonus, they are not only gluten-free, but they are no bake. In order to cook along and make chocolate almond butter bites next week, these are the ingredients that you'll need to have in your kitchen. 2/3 cup of almond flour, 2/3 cup of almond butter, 1/4 cup of chocolate chips, 2½ tablespoons of maple syrup, half a teaspoon of coconut oil, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and half a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, which is optional. Well, friends, our time together today is almost over. I do hope you've enjoyed learning how to make this muffin in a mug. I know I had fun, and I already can't wait to cook together again next time. But before you say goodbye to this episode, make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. You just have to click the little picture of me in the corner. That way you don't miss next week's episode. It'll be out on Friday, and I'll see you then. Bye, friends.